I thought I'd left explosions and gas leaks behind me the day I retired, but the fire that tore through my cornfield proved I was wrong. I can still see its 6-foot flames ripping across the rows, smoke black as midnight, and HOA President Karen Ellingsworth screaming as her shiny Lexus melted in the heat. I didn't light that fire, but I'll tell you right now, she sure as hell did. My name's Calvin Riggins, 56 years old widower, ex-oil rig engineer. I came back home to Maple Glen to live quiet, just me, my 6-acre cornfield, and the old barn I rebuilt with my own hands. For a while, life was peaceful. I'd get up before dawn, drink my bitter coffee, and watch the mist roll over the stalks. That field was therapy. Then one day, trouble pulled up wearing heels. Karen Ellingsworth. Blonde bob, pressed blazer, the kind of smile that tells you she's already decided you're guilty of something. She called herself the head of the HOA, though she wasn't technically elected, she just sort of took over. The first time we met, I was fixing the south gate. She parked her Lexus half in the ditch, stepped out with a clipboard, and asked if I'd filed the correct visual boundary paperwork for my fence. I wiped my forehead, said, "Ma'am, this property isn't under your HOA. Been here since 1961. She smiled, that tight, polite smile. Even so, we like consistency across Maple Glen for the sake of neighborhood value. I laughed, couldn't help it. Lady, the only thing consistent around here is the sound of tractors and coyotes. She didn't like that much. After that, she kept popping up walking her rhinestone poodle along my fence line, snapping photos, bringing some guy in a neon vest to survey. I ignored it at first. People like her feed on reaction. But when I saw little orange flags lined up along the edge of my field, my gut twisted. I'd worked decades in the oil patch. I know the signs of disturbed soil, the faint hum of machinery underground. Something was happening beneath my land. So I walked straight into their HOA meeting, sat in the back like a ghost at a dinner table. Karen was up front clicking through slides about mailbox colors and hedge height limits. Then she said it. "We're entering a partnership with Energy Holdings for subterranean mineral assessments." I stood up. "You mean under my field?" Her eyes flicked to me like she hadn't expected the interruption. "Mr. Riggins, as your property borders Community Land Energies team may conduct preliminary scans. It's within state rights." "That's a fancy way of saying you're drilling without asking," I shot back. "You don't own the mineral rights below the water table," she said sweetly. "It's legal." I left before I said something that would get me arrested. That night, I pulled every document I had. Deeds plats my grandfather's handwritten note. No transfer of subsurface rights without consent. Didn't matter. Karen had the arrogance of someone who believed she could rewrite law with a smile. Weeks later, I caught them on camera, contractors in hard hats unloading gear behind my barn. That was it. I confronted Karen in front of the clubhouse, held up a printed frame from my wildlife cam. She barely looked at it. "If you have an issue, take it up with the state," she said, sipping her latte. I walked home shaking, wondering if maybe I was fighting windmills. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just an old man too attached to dirt and memory. But then I smelled it. That faint metallic tang on the wind methane. The same smell that once filled the air 15 years ago in West Texas, right before the explosion that took my son. That memory hit me like a hammer. The rig, the fireball, my boy's small hard hat lying in the dirt. I told myself I'd never let that happen again. So when I heard the low rumble one Tuesday morning, the unmistakable thrum of a rotary drill, I grabbed my phone and ran. There it was, a red Energy rig rising from the corn like some mechanical demon. 5 workers, no warning signs, no permits posted. I shouted, "Shut it down! You're trespassing!" One of them, clipboard in hand, said calmly, "Energy Holdings has a valid exploration permit." "Not for my land," I snapped. Before I could call the sheriff, a silver Lexus screeched up. Karen stepped out, blazer sharp enough to cut glass. "Calvin, what do you think you're doing?" "What you're doing is criminal trespass," I said. "You never notified me, never filed for access. You think that paper protects you? Not in court." She stepped closer, hissed, "This is bigger than you, bigger than one field of corn. The city's behind this project. You make this a fight, you lose." I looked her dead in the eye. I lost my son to a gas leak. I won't lose this land to someone like you." The real Sheriff Deputy Claire arrived minutes later. After I showed her the footage and lack of notice, she ordered the rig shut down. Karen fumed, muttering about economic setbacks. She drove off, gravel spraying behind her, but I knew she wasn't done. And she wasn't. 3 mornings later, I smelled it again, methane stronger now, near the northeast fence line. No rigs running, but the soil was warm to the touch. Energ had left a borehole leaking underground. I called Luis Ortega, an old OSHA guy who'd once shut down an entire fracking site with drone footage. He flew in with a thermal probe. When he saw the readings, he muttered, "This land's a bomb." I barely slept that night. Then came the sound, dull distant, like a car door slammed miles away. The next closer. Then the smell of smoke. When I ran outside, I saw a wall of flame ripping through the corn. 6 feet high, roaring like a living thing. Jeremiah. My old neighbor came running down the road with a rake, shouting, "What the hell happened?" "Gas leak," I yelled. They hit a pocket. He barely heard me over the roar. Another blast. Boom! And a second wave of fire tore through the rows. Then I heard tires screech. Karen's Lexus slid to a stop by the fence. She jumped out, waving her arms. "What's going on?" "Why is everything on fire?" "Get back in your car," I shouted. "The rig site's leaking." But she froze, eyes wide, until Jeremiah dragged her away just before the generator trailer went up in a thunderclap. Shrapnel flew. The heat was unbearable. We fought it with garden hoses and prayers, but it was hopeless. By the time the fire crews arrived, nearly 5 acres were gone. My field, my sanctuary, blackened and dead. Karen's Lexus was half melted. Her screams when she saw it could have raised the dead. I didn't say a word. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived from the HOA. They were suing me, claimed my improper storage of flammable materials caused the blaze. Attached were fake photos barrels that were actually compost bins and doctored timestamps. I sat there staring at it and something in me cracked. I almost laughed. They'd trespassed, drilled, leaked, and burned my land, and now they wanted to blame me. I called Dana Wexler, an old friend turned environmental lawyer. "They're trying to bury me," I told her. She said, "Then we dig them up first." We built a case: photos, drone footage, thermal scans, every bit of paper trail Karen ever touched. And when the local news ran a story titled, "Cornfield Inferno, was HOA agreed to blame?" With Karen's photo against the burning sky, everything shifted. Neighbors who once glared started calling. Some anonymously sent me screenshots, texts from Karen saying, "We need to get Riggins under control." Her power was cracking. The city launched an investigation. When they pulled Energ's permits, they found the smoking gun a forged HOA resolution authorizing drilling on behalf of residents, signed by Karen alone. Fraud, environmental endangerment, falsification of public records. They froze the HOA's accounts, sealed the clubhouse doors with red tape. Karen tried to spin it, sent out a mass email claiming media bias, but no one bought it. A week later, she was summoned to testify. I went, sat behind her as she trembled in her spotless white blazer. When they asked if she'd forged the document, she said it was for the community's benefit. The commissioner raised an eyebrow. "So you admit it?" Silence. That was the moment her empire cracked. The board dissolved. The city took over. And just like that, the HOA that thought it ruled everything vanished under the weight of its own lies. Afterward, I walked the scorched field alone. The soil was black, lifeless, but not forever. I started replanting not corn this time, but sunflowers. My son used to draw them when he was little, said they were protectors. Maybe he was right. The city later renamed the walking trail along the creek, Daniel's Path. I didn't ask for that, but when I saw the new sign carved from oak and glowing in the sunset, I finally exhaled. Karen never came back. Her house went dark. Rumors said she fled the state. I didn't care. Justice had already found her. They say fire destroys, but I've learned it also reveals. It burns away lies, greed, and the kind of arrogance that thinks it can dig under your life without consequence. You can't bury the truth. It always finds a way to the surface, just like gas, just like fire.